want to thank you all for joining us this afternoon. I know that some of you have contacted me even while I was in DC and on my way in regarding questions about my annual trip to the intergovernmental meetings in DC, as well as the national governors and the Western Governors Association meetings. My key takeaway right away from these meetings. This is the first meetings I've had with the Trump administration, and there was a really distinct difference this time around. The folks, the new Secretary of Interior, Secretary Burgum, as well as the new Director of the Intergovernmental Affairs out of the White House, and other secretaries of different departments in attendance, particularly at the IGIA, was a totally different atmosphere from the past 2 years, the past two meetings that I have attended. And I say that because these individuals were very engaged in the issues surrounding the insular areas. Each of them asked its governor and Congress people distinctly about issues of the respective areas. And so, I was very, very impressed, and I was I felt very positive about this meeting because not only were they concerned about the insular areas, they showed concern, and we felt it. I think all the governors felt the same way, and Secretary Burgum even requested some information regarding the 902 process that had started in the last administration. And that was one of the major asks for the Commonwealth, is to continue that discussion right away. And so right off the bat, I believe I pointed Secretary Burgum and Director Alex Myers. They were very, very engaged, so I felt very positive in that regard. So I think we're going to be seeing some immediate results from these engagements. We also had, as you all know, that it wasn't just the IGIA, it was the National Governors Association meetings. And I can say this, that this time around, again, the way it was handled was completely different. President Trump and his secretaries from Interior, from State, from Commerce, EPA, they were all engaged. They were present. And the president actually asked us to join him for a day at the White House for him also to brief us on what's going on in the nation's capital and the policies that he's rolling out. And the common sense approach to his administration and for the rest of the country and the territories. Basically, it's to make America stronger, safer, and more prosperous. That's basically the key takeaway. The president was there, engaged us for a couple of hours. We also had the opportunity during that time, we had set aside time to meet with several department secretaries on a very small working group so that we can engage with them a lot easier than if we had a room full of individuals. We're, 55 governors would all try to get their turn at getting on the podium or getting a question or a comment in, where each of us was given the opportunity to take a look at which department heads we wanted to meet with, a priority for us. So I was able to meet with Secretary Burgum from Interior, and met with State Department, Secretary Rubio. We also met with EPA, Department of Energy. The only two individuals that were not present at the time is Elon Musk and the Secretary of Defense. So, all in all, that whole engagement was like 2.5 days, from the IGIA through the NGA, and then we also had a meeting on the last day, Saturday, with the Western Governors Association, again with Interior, Department of Energy, and EPA, as well as the Department of Agriculture. And this is the Western Governors Association. So, it was a long, this was not an easy meeting for me and some of the cabinet members that were able to join me. We had the Secretary of Finance who was engaged with the financial part of Interior and the Department of Treasury. And of course, Mr. Hunter was there because we were concerned about the pause on all the federal grants and NTIA and the broadband grant was one of the biggest ones that we've received. We wanted to make sure that we engage with the Department of Commerce regarding that particular program. And of course, I invited Mike Sablon, who is a member of CETA, to join us because we were looking at economic recovery, economic development, and what and where, what we need to do and where we need to be. So we were seen and we were heard, and to the limited time that I had, we were able to also meet with some members of Congress. I talked to our Congresswoman Hines, Kimberly Hines. She was at the IGIA, and she was at the briefing by State Department, so she was there. I met with her. We talked a little bit about some of the issues that we brought. I was able to also, through the courtesy of the Japanese consulate, met with the ambassador. He hosted the governors at his residence, and that was very engaging because I was able to meet with some very iconic corporations from Japan, and some of which expressed real interest to consider investing in the Commonwealth. And a week before the NGA, the Japanese company SoftBank, I think, pledged to invest $1 trillion in the United States in the form of Japanese investments. So, that was a very, very important meeting, event for me to attend, because I did meet with some of these very, very distinguished leaders of major corporations like JAL, Sony, ANA, NEC. As you know, NEC is one of the telecommunication company, large telecommunication company in Japan, and is most likely planning to do one of their fiber optics onto Tinian. So, and actually, he was the guy that was in charge for that line was there. So, I certainly believe that we've made a tremendous headway in terms of getting investments into the Commonwealth and getting, whether it's federal dollars or from industries within our region. And again, that's basically the whole crux. There's a whole bunch of details that I've gone through, but that's basically my opening salvo.
Thank you, Gov. We'll go ahead and open the floor for questions, and of course, Secretary Tracy, Board Member Mike, and Special Assistant Glenn are here to also help answer questions that you may have inquiries about. Mark, you want to start?
Gov, during the IJA meeting, what were the specific asks you brought up in behalf of the CNMI?
The biggest ask that I brought to the table was the continuation of the 902 talks. That was, the last presidential representative for the 902 talk, as you well know, is from Interior. And so I needed to bring that up to the table, and because this immediate point of discussion that we wanted to take up immediately in the 902 is Section 701 of our covenant, and that has to do with the financial part of the covenant, and that includes, of course, 702 funding. That's critical for us because we have not brought that issue in 22 years. And that's part of our covenant. That's part of what this Commonwealth is. And that's what the people of the Commonwealth bargained or voted for. And with certain provisions, really key provisions and elements and part of that agreement have been ignored for almost 22 years. And we need to get back to that real fundamental issue of our covenant. So that was one of the key points. And I pointed out the struggles that we have with airlifts. Of course, the cabotage issue was brought up. It's not just us. Guam brought it up also. That was on their table, and while we have distinct differences in the specifics that we're asking for, I think we're all the same in bringing forth the challenges that each area faces and some of the potential solutions and initiative that needs to be in place for each areas.
Mr. Governor, the 702 talks, did I read it incorrectly? 702 funding, wasn't that only for the first 7 years of the?
Every 7 years it has to be negotiated.
And it hasn't changed?
No, it hasn't. The last time it was 22 years ago when Governor Rebalta was the governor.
Was the funding like you divvy up to other insular areas at the time?
Yeah, so the irony of that is it is the Northern Marianas Covenant funds. That's the irony, and it's supposed to be $27 million
Annually, right?
annually, okay? And it's now being divvied up with
Other jurisdictions?
with other jurisdictions. So, you know, that is the agreement that the people of the Commonwealth agreed to. That is a covenant fund. There's no question about that. It
Was there
should,
any gesture to kind of to address that situation? Or
Pardon me?
maybe was there any gestures or any opportunity to discuss?
yes, I
to
mean, you
address
know,
that
I feel, even when in previous discussions with Secretary Cantor of OIA, I think that they believed that it was a very critical and relevant subject to address. When we brought it up with Secretary Burgum and Director Myers, they were very interested in getting that addressed. So I think, I really believe, takeaway from those meetings is that that's going to happen fairly soon.
Like revisit it?
Secretary Burgum actually cornered me and asked me who were responsible, the staff at OIA that were in on that discussion, and I brought back to him. I just gave him those names, so you could tell that there is going to be some immediate actions on that, and then that's my takeaway.
Gov, do you have any specific number, like how much are we asking?
$62 million a year.
May I just add?
Yes.
In addition to the change that divvied up,
You need to boost it.
in addition to the change that divvied up the 702 monies, another major change that occurred was the elimination of the inflationary adjustment. So that 27 million in current dollars is approximately 60 million.
Adjusted to inflation.
The reason, that's the reason we asked this.
That's our economist's estimate, what $27 million today is worth. So that's a major change.
Yeah.
Mr. Governor, in addition to that 62 million, we were listening this morning in Congress in the subcommittee meeting, the oversight hearing. Are we asking for a $400 or $400 billion or $1 million, pardon me, bailout from the federal government?
No. We're asking for $412 million of repurpose funds. That $412 million have been appropriated and allocated to the Commonwealth for PUA and FPUC. So those funds are already here allocated to the Commonwealth. What we're asking is to repurpose those funds so that it doesn't have to go through the appropriation process in Congress. So I think, I don't think, I'm just going to say it's not a bailout ask. I'm not asking for a bailout. I'm asking to repurpose funds to invigorate and for economic recovery, whether it's, and I'll probably provide you with a copy of my letter. And I think, I'm very sure that I think our Congresswoman misspoke and used a word that's just not necessarily, what do you call it, does not necessarily portray what we're trying to do. In fact, let me be clear. I met with her, I talked to her on the phone, and I told her what we did in the last, because that was a recommendation that I submitted to the previous Secretary of Labor during the Biden administration. It's not new, and it wasn't a bailout, it was to repurpose that funding towards economic recovery, whether it's government, essential government services, uh, to shore up other industries in the Commonwealth, whether it's in low interest business loans to our existing businesses in the Commonwealth who are struggling, to shore up and incentivize airlines and tourism industries to come in, help with our hotel industries who are still struggling, and to shore up the economy. And that's the purpose. And you know, the purpose of the PUA is for protection of pandemic unemployment, and that help the community. So at this point in time, that initiative is running on its own time. So we have a lot of leftover funds from that program. And what we wanted to do was we asked that we repurpose those funds towards very meaningful and impactful economic recovery programs.
Well, so that's money that's still in that same account from during the pandemic, and we're trying to just
Repurpose
get
it.
back into that and repurpose.
And you know, CETA will play a major role in this whole initiative, and we will be rolling out either a directive or an executive order establishing a economic planning team, and I don't want to say planning, economic recovery team to execute some of these plans that have already been submitted by economic companies, economic planners. We had Matrix. That was a substantial funding. Matrix did an economic recovery plan for the Commonwealth when I first came in. Transcends also submitted their final product. So we're gonna have to take all that now and execute whatever needs to be executed. And I'm pretty sure that within all these plans that we've paid over $1 million, we need to execute it. Otherwise, we would be wasting our time with, and those funds would have been wasted. Did I, let me,
Oh,
is that
no,
clear enough?
it is, Mr. Governor, but you mentioned one of the companies in there. Did one of those include a study with regards to the population decline in the CNMI? Was that one of those factors that was part of that?
No. I mean, those are parts, those were just part of the study. But overall, the purpose of those studies and those plans was to put together a economic recovery roadmap for the Commonwealth. Both of those studies, that was the bottom line purpose.
Oh, just the last question on that, the same thing, that $412 million to be repurposed, is that money currently within the CNMI gaining interest, or is that somewhere in the federal?
Allocated by
That's
Congress.
allocated.
Okay.
Those are allocated, and basically, we don't have to go back to the whole appropriation process with Congress. So that'd make it much easier than if we're gonna go and get.
So of this are, that's
Sorry,
all.
Mark, I'm just gonna have a separate,
Separate.
give her an opportunity to ask questions, and then we
Is
have
that
a
okay, Mark?
PUA and
We
questions.
just,
Yeah,
Okay.
we'll come back to you.
So for what was left over, do you guys have a total amount of what there is to be allocated?
yes, we have a plan, and, you know, we took a look at it and
It's
came up.
412.
And in fact, it was actually the Congresswoman that reached out to me and said, please submit the plan that you guys have for this amount, and we did that. Submitted to that to her.
Do you remember which congresswoman?
Pardon me?
Could you clarify which person reached out to you about that?
The Congresswoman,
From which state?
Hines,
Oh, right.
Kimberly Hines.
Yeah, I think we have a copy of that. We'll go ahead and recognize,
Arnold?
no, our KUA, I'm not sure, I can't see. Nick Delgado. Nick Delgado from KUAM.
Hmm. Yes,
I'll say, Governor, speaks about, from Department of Government Efficiency, and eventually pushing potential threats of cuts across the government, including in Guam and the CNMI. I'm wondering if you received any assurances and what you can say to the people of the CNMI to let them know if we are protected, or if you already know if there are going to be any major cuts coming down the pipe.
Well, we haven't really had a major notice on the cuts. We've had pause, and a lot of them have basically opened up. I understand from some of the press releases and some of the notices that a lot of it is like EPA
Green.
NOAA grants that are being cut, not necessarily totally, but they're being reduced. And so we're aware of that. I'm aware of that. I'm aware of several under NOAA. So everybody's being asked to let go of people that have been on probationary. I know of several that on Saipan. But in regards to whether it's a major, no, I haven't received anything official. So a lot of our grants are being noted, grantees are notified that, yeah, we'll take a pause on this, but then a lot of them also have already received it. You continue back, you open your portal. And so, did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you, Governor.
Okay, thank you, Nick.
Go ahead to Mark and then Arnold.
Wait, Arnold first.
Yeah.
Arnold, okay.
Before I ask my own question, can we go back to the clarification of the 412 million? Are we talking about ARPA money?
No.
It's not ARPA money, right?
No, it's not. It's PUA. It's PUA allocation.
During the pandemic.
Okay, now, in my own question, when the president called you guys to join in, are you able to bring up the issue and clarification on the executive orders pertaining to some
No.
cease of funding?
No, so let me just kind of clarify that. You know, when the president came in to speak, and he did come in to speak for almost an hour. First, he introduced his cabinets, and he basically made a commitment that these cabinet members are going to be working directly with you. They have an instruction to fully engage with the states, okay? And then he went on to give us a rundown of the recent executive orders, and Arnold, at that time, there was already about 70. So I don't think he didn't have time to go through specific ones. I recall that one of the recent one that he had just signed the night before had to do with Title IX, and that is the funding for women sports and federal government to state universities and colleges. And so that was, I mean, if you watch that clip where he had a really, he almost heated back and forth with the governor of Maine, that was that specific one. And he was just going through a list of about maybe 5 or 6 that he had signed the night before. But in that regards, in the executive orders, the Intergovernmental Affairs Office out of the White House, these are the White House that engage different departments. We're getting a lot of briefing materials on a daily basis of all executive orders that have been signed by the president. So they're keeping us informed and have been advised of these events.
Mr. Governor, we heard an awful awful lot about China this morning. Also heard a lot about one that we're trying to get more tourists or open up the valve from China. And then we heard about a whole lot about what the federal government doesn't like about it. We had a rep from Wisconsin before who said that they want to eliminate the visa waiver program altogether with the birth tourism and the folks who are hopping on boats. Was that some of the stuff that was addressed when you were over there as well?
Yes. I can tell you, and this is almost bipartisan, there's a big concern out there with national security and the geopolitical situation that we're in. There's no question about that. So when those subjects arise, it's almost uniform across the. So we need to tread that path very carefully with national policies, because as you know, Brad, the visa waiver that we have is a discretionary parole, right? And it's at the discretion of one person, and that is the Secretary of Homeland Security. She could just pull that plug on us. So we need to be very careful in how we approach the issue and the subject of China itself. So, you know, we have to be very purposeful and very sensitive to how we approach that. And it cannot, you have 40 members of Congress last year calling for the visa waiver to just go, to be pulled from us, and that has not dissipated. That conversation has not cooled off. Did I answer your question?
It did. It's just an interesting topic.
Yeah.
About are we going to get that back or not? That tourism market.
You know, again, we're getting Chinese tourists into Saipan.
Via Korea.
Yeah,
Or Hong
and we have more Chinese tourists today so far than we have from Japan. Right? Via Korea and via Hong Kong. Right?
Go ahead.
Changing gears, what's your take on the OAG flagging CCC's backpay? You signed the law. Before signing that, did OAG give some comments and then?
No. To be honest with you, no. The AG was not on island at the time, and as you know, there was a last minute inclusion of our proposal, our proposed revised budget. That was not in an initiative from the executive branch. It was the legislature that inserted that. And I had a short discussion with Senate and members of the House, and they said, well, you know, I said, okay, 250,000, I'll just go ahead and sign this. And I don't want to put our Secretary of Finance, but my instruction to her informally was like, you're going to put this in the last priority of things. So even if it became law, or even if I vetoed it, I'm glad that the AG came out and clarified his position on that. Does that answer your question?
Yes, and another follow-up with the casino thing. Just the other day, there was a ruling from the bankruptcy court that they've selected Team King Investments, the auction of a property of IPI. Do you have any idea of what Team King Investments, and what's your take on this development?
Well, I mean, it's a court proceeding where the auction was open to bidders from around the world. And I guess a company, well, the stalking horse, you call it, right, issued the first. The second one would be the King,
Team King is
Team King Investments. And my thoughts, I wish it was $25 million.
But that's just a starting bid, right?
No, I think that was it,
That's it,
right?
that's
That's it. And so, I think in March, sometimes in March, they're gonna
Seven, and six.
have a hearing on whether that bid is acceptable. You know, we're monitoring it fairly closely. The AG is gonna start monitoring that. There might be, we gotta make sure that the provisions and the outcomes of those agreements is the CNMI's rights are protected. Okay.
Go, come over here to Sakura from
Sakura.
and then Arnold.
So we talked about going back to the 412 million, trying to reallocate that funding, right? What was left over. You talked about some businesses or hotel association, like you want to allocate it towards all the different things. Coming back, if to businesses, if we were to give it out as grants or whatever is decided, how will that be regulated? Because, as you know, right in the past,
I absolutely agree with you,
Yeah.
and thank you for that question. That's why the Commonwealth Economic Development Authority is gonna play a key role in that regards. And this is not gonna be a giveaway to newly formed companies. This is gonna be evaluated for companies that are already in existence, that need the help that they need. And so CETA will play a major role in that regards. Okay. And I'm very confident that they will come up with what is fair, what is reasonable, and what is in the best interest of the people and the Commonwealth itself.
Well, do you intend to hold SOCA and perhaps, share with people the things that you have shared in the
Sure. I intend to do that in May. I thought I told you that already.
Maybe. Do we have a
Hey,
date?
you remember? No, we have to get back with the legislature to set up the date, even the venue. You know.
Okay.
You gotta remember, and I will appear. I will say, I would like to set this date, at this venue. What do you think? And those agreements will have to, it's normally not complicated. We just have to agree to a date. Okay?
Don't we have time for one more question?
Just to go back to the casino stuff, and the commissioners and all that. If the commissioners are not employees, if they're not local government employees, is an office that's not funded able to continue to obligate the CNMI for the actual physical offices? They've had that office for a long time. I don't know how they get the funding for all that stuff. So is the CNMI gonna be obligated to that? Did they have to go through a procurement?
That's a very good question, Brad, because in the law, the central government is not obligated for the expenditure of the casino commission. The casino commission is basically almost out there by itself, and that's why they have $3.5 million of regulatory fee. That's why that exists. The the executive branch nor the legislative branch has any say on how that funding is to be spent annually. And that's how it is supposed to function. The government of the Commonwealth is not obligated by law when the casino commission was established.
So they're having meetings that they don't have a printer to print something out to post somewhere. They don't have an official email account to be able to email people for notice that they're having meetings. They don't have a functioning phone number for somebody to call them to get more information. They don't have a website that has information for people to do that. Are they operating properly right now?
You're asking me my personal opinion?
Or finance or anybody else who you've got here?
I would venture to say that they're not operating officially. I mean, maybe they are, but if they're operating and having meetings, then the government is not liable for that. Right? Maybe it's voluntary, I don't know.
Mark's asking for his very last question of the day, and then I'm gonna ask anyone on the panel if they wanna give any last words before we conclude. Go ahead, Mark.
Go, Star Mariana's flight this morning had to return to Rota because of some engine problems. And then Representative Ogo came out with a press statement asking for you to fast track anything happening with alternative inter-island carrier service. What's your response to that?
Well, I signed the agreement already. I approved it. I sent it back to CETA, and they're waiting for so I think the government, as far as the governor is concerned, I've done everything I can under that agreement. And so I'm gonna have Mike, since he's from CETA.
Sure. Yes, the CETA board did entertain that QC application from JMP Holdings for another airline to serve Rota, Kenya, and Saipan, and possibly in the future into Guam. And after much discussion and deliberation and analysis and reanalysis at the last minute before the deadline to act on that application, the board of CETA approved it in December. Went to the governor agreed with our recommendation on a number of tax relief benefits. Then recently, the applicant came back to CETA with requests for amendments to the application, some two conditions that were not presented when the application was submitted and discussed. So I think we're up the last few days before the applicant has to accept the terms and conditions that they had agreed with prior to our submittal of the recommendation to the governor. So this is the new twist. I think CETA has done all it could, and the recommendation was to approve. The governor concurred.
Mhm.
Back to the applicant came back with some unexpected requests that were not considered in the initial application. So I guess the short answer is it's in the applicant's court, and we hope that they proceed as they have discussed with us in their application. Because we certainly can use a second airline to serve the island.
Go ahead. Well, one more follow-up question from Sakura.
So with everything discussed today, as a last question, what is the economic outlook for the rest of the year?
Well, so again, like I said, we're forming this very important team, and it's going to be headed by CETA. That would include MVA, CPA, Commerce, Finance, perhaps even the Attorney General's office for legal guidance on things. And it's going to be a small, very involved, working, I won't say working, team that's going to put together, and I'm pretty sure that CETA would reach out to the private sector for their involvement, but I don't want these initiatives that are gonna come out to drag on. We need hard deadlines on things that we need to get done, whether it's incentivizing the airlines, working with our existing airlines and expanding it, looking for new airlines, airlifts to come into the Commonwealth, and looking at the overall individual sectors of our economy and seeing how we're gonna do that. We're very, very successful right now with a lot of our infrastructure projects that are necessary for economic development and investment development to come in. So we're well on our way on that. We need to take a look at the most critical infrastructure, I believe, and that is energy, that is CUC itself. So we need to take a look at what needs to get done right away to bring down the cost of energy and to provide stable power system as well as water system. So, yeah, I'm leaning forward or leaning sideways to Mike and Frank and the whole CETA board to lead this team of public and private sector to really put together a hard deadline on ourselves, whether it's in 2 months, 3 months' time, what needs to get done.
Can I expand on that?
Go ahead, and I want Mike to.
Sure. If I may expand on that, let me backtrack a little bit. The governor's request and the CETA board chairman's request. I joined the governor in Washington, D.C., and my primary mission there was to see what CETA can do to start aligning with some critical federal agencies that could assist us. This is a whole new administration. This is our first opportunity to meet some new key people in the federal government. Made some very good headway with discussions at the Department of Commerce while I was there. I spent some time at their International Trade Office. There's a big Select USA conference coming up in May, which CETA will participate in along with MBA and maybe Commerce. In addition to that, we are working on other trade events, trade missions. Some breaking news, just last week, the CETA board met, and after vetting 4 applicants for the new executive director's position, that position, as you know, was vacated when the late executive director, Manny Sablan, passed away, and the CETA board appointed Mr. Derek Sasamoto, the executive director. I'm very happy, and Derek brings with him varied experience as a professional in every respect of the word, very competent, and we're excited about Derek's appointment. And the CETA board decided to hold off on appointing or filling another critical position in the agency, and that's the Economic Development Manager's position. It was recently vacated when Mr. Dave Guerrero left to join the Bank of Guam. Dave made a lot of progress in setting up that new office. So in the next Tuesday, next week, we're going to be vetting applicants for the Economic Development Manager's position. 2 very critical positions at CETA. And in our discussion with Derek, discussing his offer and the board's decision to select him, we made it clear that, and Derek has accepted, that we are going to be, you're going to see CETA more aggressive in the coming months to put together at the governor's request and that's everyone's